My name is Eleanor Price. I'm 31 years old, and 3 days after my husband James died in a horrific car accident that shattered my world and left me completely devastated at the age of 31, I stood alone at his graveside watching dirt cover his casket, while my parents Gregory and Ruth Price and my sister Brittany were 20 miles away, celebrating with champagne glasses and posting Instagram stories about Brittany's amazing achievement in landing a major brand partnership deal that they had decided was more important than supporting their daughter and sister during the most devastating moment of her life. What they didn't know was that their heartless abandonment during my husband's funeral would be the final revelation of their true character, that I needed to completely cut them out of my life forever, leading to a viral social media post that would destroy their reputations and Brittany's influencer career, while teaching them that people who choose business celebrations over family funerals don't deserve to be called family, and that sometimes losing people who don't support you during tragedy is actually a gift that shows you who really matters in your life. The car accident that stole my husband from me happened on a rainy Thursday evening in October, when James was driving home from his job as a high school math teacher, the profession he had chosen because he loved helping young people understand complex concepts and build confidence in their academic abilities. James Price had been my soulmate, my best friend, and my partner in everything for the 8 years we had been together, including our 3 years of marriage that had been filled with the kind of deep love, mutual respect, and shared dreams that made me believe we would grow old together and create the beautiful family life we had been planning since our early relationship in college. The police officer who came to my door that night was gentle but direct in delivering the news that would forever divide my life into before and after James's death. "Mrs. Price, there's been an accident involving your husband's vehicle," Officer Martinez said, his voice filled with the kind of professional compassion that comes from delivering tragic news to families who never expect their normal day to become the worst day of their lives. "Your husband was struck by a drunk driver who ran a red light, and despite the best efforts of paramedics and emergency room physicians, his injuries were too severe for medical intervention to save his life." The shock of losing James so suddenly and senselessly was compounded by the immediate practical necessities of funeral planning, insurance claims, school notifications, and all the overwhelming logistical details that must be handled when someone dies, even while you're struggling to process the reality that your spouse is gone forever and that your entire future has been irrevocably changed by circumstances completely beyond your control or preparation. James had been only 33 years old, healthy and active, with no medical conditions that would have suggested any risk of sudden death, making his loss feel even more random and unfair. As a freelance graphic designer who had built a successful creative practice over the past 6 years, I had the flexibility to take time off work to grieve properly and handle all the arrangements that James's death required. But the emotional devastation was so complete that even simple decisions about funeral flowers or burial clothes felt overwhelming and impossible to manage without the support of people who claimed to love me. The funeral planning process revealed the depth of love and respect that James had generated throughout his life, with colleagues from the high school where he taught, former students who credited him with helping them succeed academically, college friends who had maintained close relationships despite geographic distance, and neighbors who had appreciated his kindness and willingness to help with everything from snow shoveling to moving furniture. The outpouring of support from James's community was both comforting and heartbreaking, as it reminded me of the exceptional man I had lost, while also demonstrating the kind of love and loyalty that I expected to receive from my own family during this devastating period. James was the kind of teacher who changed students' lives, his principal, Dr. Sarah Chen said when she called to offer condolences and support. "And the entire school community wants to honor his memory and show our support for you during this unimaginably difficult time." The genuine grief and respect that James's colleagues expressed for his memory was deeply meaningful, but it also highlighted the contrast between people who understood the magnitude of loss and those who would prioritize personal interests over providing support during a family tragedy. I scheduled James's funeral for Saturday afternoon at the Methodist church where we had been married 4 years earlier, choosing Saturday specifically to accommodate family members and friends who would need time off work or travel arrangements to attend the service. The date was selected after consulting with both families about availability and ensuring that anyone who wanted to honor James's memory would have the opportunity to participate in celebrating his life and providing support during my grief. But while I was making careful arrangements to ensure James's funeral would be meaningful and well-attended, my family was apparently focused on entirely different priorities that would soon reveal their complete lack of understanding about appropriate family obligations during times of tragedy and loss. My relationship with my family had always been complicated by their obvious favoritism toward my younger sister, Brittany Martinez, a 28-year-old social media influencer who had built a substantial following through lifestyle content, fashion posts, and brand partnership promotions that generated significant income while allowing her to maintain the kind of glamorous, travel-focused lifestyle that my parents viewed as more exciting and successful than my steady work as a freelance graphic designer serving small businesses and nonprofit organizations. Brittany's Instagram account, or Brittany Lifestyle, had over 200,000 followers and generated monthly income that exceeded what many traditional professionals earned, leading my parents Gregory and Ruth Price to treat her social media career as more legitimate and impressive than my graphic design practice that served steady clients and provided reliable income without the public visibility and glamorous lifestyle that characterized Brittany's work. Brittany just landed another amazing brand partnership, my mother Ruth would announce during family gatherings, and her follower engagement rates are some of the highest in her demographic. She's really building something special with her influence and marketing expertise. The enthusiasm and pride in Ruth's voice when discussing Brittany's social media achievements was rarely matched when she talked about my graphic design work, which she would describe as computer stuff or Eleanor's little design projects, despite the fact that my creative services had helped dozens of businesses develop professional branding and marketing materials that contributed to their growth and success. My father, Gregory's attitude was similarly dismissive of my professional achievements, while treating Brittany's influencer career as a fascinating business enterprise that demonstrated entrepreneurial skill and marketing savvy. Brittany understands modern business better than most people her age, Gregory would say, and she's positioning herself for major opportunities in the digital marketing space. The differential treatment of our careers was part of a larger pattern of favoritism that had characterized my family relationships throughout our adult lives, with Brittany receiving enthusiastic support and celebration for her achievements, while my accomplishments were minimized or ignored, despite being built on traditional business principles and serving clients who valued quality creative services over social media visibility. But beyond professional favoritism, the most hurtful aspect of my family dynamics was their tendency to prioritize Brittany's schedule and social commitments over important events in my life, including anniversaries, birthdays, and milestones that they would reschedule or skip if Brittany had content creation obligations or travel commitments related to her influencer work. "We can't make your anniversary dinner because Brittany has a brand event that weekend," Ruth had said when James and I invited the family to celebrate our second wedding anniversary. "And she needs family support for these important career opportunities that could lead to bigger partnerships and collaborations." The characterization of Brittany's brand events as important career opportunities that warranted family schedule changes while treating my anniversary celebration as something that could be easily rescheduled revealed the fundamental priority system that governed my parents' decision-making about family time and support. Have you ever realized that your family views your achievements as less important than your siblings' career, even when your work provides steady income and serves real clients while theirs is built on social media popularity? That's exactly what I experienced throughout my adult relationship with my parents, who treated Brittany's influencer lifestyle as more valuable than my traditional marriage and professional success. The week of James's funeral, Brittany was scheduled to attend a major brand partnership celebration hosted by a cosmetics company that had signed her to a lucrative sponsorship deal worth over $50,000 for a series of promotional posts and product endorsements. The celebration was being held at an exclusive downtown hotel with other influencers, company executives, and marketing professionals who worked in the beauty and lifestyle industries. This partnership celebration is huge for my career, Brittany had mentioned during our phone conversation about James's death, and the company is flying in executives from New York and Los Angeles specifically to meet their new brand ambassadors. It's exactly the kind of networking opportunity that could lead to major national campaigns. The timing of Brittany's career celebration on the same weekend as James's funeral was unfortunate, but not necessarily problematic, since I assumed that family members would understand that a funeral takes absolute precedence over business events, regardless of their professional importance or potential career benefits. I'm sure the company will understand if you need to reschedule for a family emergency, I had said to Brittany. And James's funeral is only scheduled for a few hours on Saturday afternoon, so it shouldn't conflict with most professional obligations. But Brittany's response revealed that she viewed the brand partnership celebration as more important than attending her brother-in-law's funeral, apparently believing that her career advancement took precedence over family obligations and supporting me during the most devastating experience of my life. The celebration is scheduled for the entire weekend, Brittany explained, and missing it would send the wrong message to the company about my commitment to the partnership. These kinds of opportunities only come once, but funerals happen all the time. The casual dismissal of James's funeral as something that happens all the time, while treating her brand celebration as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, was so shocking and inappropriate that I initially assumed Brittany had misspoken or didn't understand the significance of what she was saying. "Brittany, this is my husband's funeral," I said. "James died suddenly and tragically, and I need my family's support during the ceremony that honors his life and helps me begin processing this devastating loss." But Brittany continued to prioritize her business commitment over family obligation, apparently believing that her career advancement was more important than providing support to her sister during a funeral that represented one of life's most sacred and difficult ceremonies. "I understand that you're grieving," Brittany replied, "but this partnership could change everything for my business, and I can't sacrifice opportunities that took years to develop just because of timing conflicts with sad events." The characterization of James's funeral as a sad event that was creating timing conflicts with her business opportunities revealed such a fundamental misunderstanding of grief, family loyalty, and human decency that I realized my sister viewed my husband's death primarily as an inconvenience that was interfering with her professional schedule. But Brittany's decision to prioritize her brand celebration was supported by my parents, who apparently agreed that her career advancement was more important than attending James's funeral or providing support to their daughter during the most difficult experience of her life. "Brittany has worked so hard to build her influence and brand relationships," Ruth said when I called to discuss the scheduling conflict. "And this partnership celebration represents the kind of major opportunity that could establish her as a top-tier influencer in the lifestyle space." The enthusiasm in my mother's voice when discussing Brittany's career opportunities was never matched when she talked about my need for family support during James's funeral, revealing that she viewed my grief as less important than my sister's professional advancement and social media success. "Surely you can understand that Brittany can't sacrifice years of relationship building for one afternoon," Gregory added when he joined the conversation. "And James would have wanted Brittany to pursue her dreams and take advantage of opportunities that could secure her financial future." The presumption that James would have prioritized Brittany's business interests over his own funeral was particularly offensive and revealed how completely my parents misunderstood both James's character and the significance of funeral ceremonies in providing closure and community support for grieving family members. But the most devastating revelation came when my parents made it clear that they had also chosen to attend Brittany's celebration instead of James's funeral, treating her brand partnership as a family milestone that warranted collective celebration while dismissing my husband's death as a personal tragedy that I should handle independently. "We think the whole family should support Brittany during this important career moment," Ruth announced, "and you have James's family there to provide comfort during the funeral service." The suggestion that James's family could provide adequate support while my own relatives celebrated my sister's business success 20 miles away was both cruel and revealing about their fundamental misunderstanding of grief and family obligation during times of crisis and loss. As I ended the conversation with my parents, I realized that their choice revealed character flaws so fundamental that our relationships might never recover from this betrayal, and that their abandonment during James's funeral would be something I would remember for the rest of my life, regardless of their future attempts to repair the damage. The morning of James's funeral was overcast and cold, with the kind of November weather that seemed to match my emotional state as I prepared to say goodbye to my husband, while facing the devastating reality that my own family had chosen to celebrate my sister's business success instead of supporting me during the most important and difficult ceremony of my life. The funeral service itself was beautiful and meaningful, with James's pastor delivering a moving eulogy that captured his dedication to teaching, his love for his family, and the positive impact he had made on everyone who knew him personally and professionally. The church was filled with his colleagues, former students, college friends, and neighbors who wanted to honor his memory and show their support for me during this devastating period. James was the kind of man who made everyone around him better, his longtime friend Michael Torres said during his tribute. He was patient with students who struggled with math, generous with colleagues who needed help, and devoted to Eleanor in ways that showed all of us what real love looks like in marriage. The tributes from James's friends and colleagues were both comforting and heartbreaking, as they painted a picture of the exceptional man I had lost, while creating a stark contrast with my own family members, who were absent because they had prioritized my sister's brand celebration over honoring James's memory and supporting me during my grief. James's parents, Robert and Susan Price, had been incredibly supportive throughout the planning process and during the service itself, treating me like their own daughter and ensuring that I felt surrounded by love despite the abandonment I was experiencing from my blood relatives. "James loved you more than anything in this world," Susan whispered to me as we prepared to leave the church for the burial ceremony. "And we want you to know that you're our daughter now and always, and we'll be here to support you through whatever comes next." The love and acceptance I received from James's family was both comforting and painful, as it highlighted the contrast between people who understood family obligation versus relatives who had chosen business celebration over funeral attendance. But the most devastating moment of the entire day came as we stood graveside during the burial service, watching James's casket being lowered into the ground, while I felt the vibration of my phone receiving multiple notifications that would reveal the full extent of my family's callousness and inappropriate priorities. The Instagram notifications showed that my family members were actively posting celebratory content from Brittany's brand partnership event, sharing photos of champagne glasses, elegant venue decorations, and congratulatory messages about my sister's amazing achievement, while I was literally watching dirt cover my husband's coffin. "So proud of our girl, our Brittany lifestyle for landing this incredible partnership," my cousin Jennifer had posted, along with a photo of herself and Brittany raising champagne glasses in celebration. "What an amazing achievement! The whole family is here celebrating Brittany's success," my Aunt Linda had shared, including photos that showed multiple family members who had chosen the party over James's funeral. The real-time social media documentation of their celebration while I stood at my husband's grave was so cruel and surreal that I initially thought there must be some mistake, or that the posts were from a different event, since I couldn't comprehend how anyone could be celebrating with champagne while their family member was burying her spouse. But the timestamps on the posts confirmed that my relatives were indeed celebrating Brittany's brand partnership at the exact moment when James's body was being committed to the earth, creating a devastating contrast between their joy and my devastating grief that would be permanently documented in their social media accounts. "Brittany's partnership celebration is absolutely gorgeous," my mother had posted. "So grateful to be here supporting our daughter during this major career milestone." The enthusiastic language about being grateful to support Brittany during her major career milestone, while abandoning me during James's funeral, revealed the complete inversion of priorities that had guided their decision-making about family obligations and support. Have you ever buried your spouse while your family posted celebratory photos from a party they chose to attend, instead of being there during your darkest hour? That's exactly what I experienced as my phone buzzed with notifications showing my relatives raising champagne glasses while I watched my husband's casket disappear into the ground. The text message that would complete my understanding of their heartless abandonment came from my mother during the final prayers at James's graveside. We need to talk soon about family relationships and supporting each other during important milestones. The demand that we talk about supporting each other during important milestones, while she was celebrating at a party instead of supporting me during my husband's burial, was so breathtakingly inappropriate that I realized my family had no understanding of the magnitude of their betrayal or the permanence of damage they had caused. But Ruth's text was followed by 47 missed calls throughout the remainder of the burial service and the reception at James's parents' house, creating an intrusive and inappropriate demand for my attention while I was trying to process my grief and accept condolences from people who had actually shown up to honor James's memory. The voicemail messages that my family left revealed their panic and confusion about my failure to answer their calls, but also their continued inability to understand that their behavior had been cruel rather than reasonable, and that their abandonment during James's funeral had permanently damaged our relationships. "Eleanor, you're being unreasonable by not answering your phone," Gregory's message said. "We made the best decision we could about which family events to attend, and now we need to discuss how to move forward as a family without letting disagreements create permanent division." The characterization of choosing between my husband's funeral and my sister's party as which family events to attend revealed that my father still didn't understand the moral distinction between sacred obligations and recreational activities, or the magnitude of betrayal their absence had represented. But the most revealing message came from Brittany herself, whose voice carried excitement about her celebration rather than any acknowledgement that her career event had taken precedence over supporting me during James's funeral. "Eleanor, the partnership celebration was absolutely incredible, and I got to meet executives who could change everything for my business," Brittany said. "I know you're upset about the timing, but sometimes we have to prioritize opportunities that could affect our entire future. I hope you understand that this was about securing my career, not about not caring about James." The casual discussion of her incredible celebration, while acknowledging that she knew I was upset about the timing, revealed that Brittany understood exactly what choice she had made, but believed her business interests justified abandoning her sister during a funeral ceremony. But Brittany's message also contained the key insight that would guide my response to their cruel treatment. She was correct that her celebration had been about securing her career, which meant it had not been about family loyalty, human decency, or supporting me during the most devastating experience of my life. The decision to completely cut my family out of my life was both emotionally liberating and practically necessary, as I realized that people who would abandon me during James's funeral had revealed their true character so completely that maintaining relationships with them would only create continued disappointment and hurt during my grief and recovery process. But before implementing my plan to eliminate them from my life entirely, I wanted to ensure that their cruel behavior would have lasting consequences that reflected the magnitude of their betrayal and taught them that abandoning family members during tragedy results in permanent relationship damage. The social media post that would destroy their reputations and change my life forever was carefully crafted to be both factually accurate and emotionally devastating, sharing the truth about their choice to prioritize Brittany's brand celebration over James's funeral, while expressing gratitude for the people who had actually provided support during my darkest hour. 3 days ago, I buried my husband James after he was killed by a drunk driver. I posted on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with photos from the funeral showing the sparse family attendance, while my parents and sister chose to attend a champagne celebration for my sister's business partnership, instead of being there during the most devastating day of my life. I want to thank James's family, his colleagues, our friends, and our neighbors who understood that funerals take precedence over parties, and who showed me what real family loyalty looks like during tragedy, the post continued. And I want to make clear that people who choose business celebrations over family funerals are not my family anymore. The post included side-by-side photos showing James's funeral with empty chairs where my family should have been sitting, alongside screenshots of their celebratory social media posts from Brittany's party, creating visual evidence of their choice that was impossible to deny or minimize. If you're wondering why my birth family wasn't at my husband's funeral, it's because they were 20 miles away celebrating with champagne while I watched dirt cover his casket, the post concluded. And if you're dealing with family members who abandon you during tragedy, please know that their behavior reveals their true character and that you deserve relationships with people who show up when you need them most. The response to my post was immediate and overwhelming, with thousands of shares and comments from people who were shocked by my family's behavior, while expressing support for my decision to cut ties with relatives who had demonstrated such cruel priorities during my grief. "I can't believe anyone would skip a family funeral for a business party," one comment read. "Your family revealed their true character, and you're better off without people who would abandon you during tragedy." But beyond individual expressions of support, my post generated a viral conversation about family betrayal during tragic circumstances, with thousands of people sharing their own stories of relatives who had failed to provide support during crises while prioritizing personal interests over family obligations. The viral response created a network of people who understood exactly what I was experiencing and who validated my decision to eliminate family members who had proven themselves unreliable during my greatest need for support and comfort. But while the social media response was providing unexpected validation and community, the impact on my family was immediate and devastating, as they realized that their cruel behavior had been exposed to public scrutiny and permanent documentation. The immediate aftermath of my viral social media post was both satisfying and overwhelming, as my family realized that their abandonment during James's funeral had been exposed to thousands of people who were sharing the story and expressing outrage about their heartless behavior while I was grieving the sudden loss of my husband. Brittany's influencer career was the first casualty of the public exposure, as her brand partners began questioning their association with someone whose priorities had been so publicly revealed to prioritize business over family tragedy, creating exactly the kind of negative publicity that influencer marketing contracts are designed to avoid. "Several of my brand partners are reconsidering their contracts because of the negative attention from your post," Brittany called to tell me, her voice filled with panic rather than any acknowledgement that her career problems were the natural consequence of her choice to prioritize business celebration over funeral attendance. And my follower engagement has dropped significantly because people are commenting about my selfishness instead of engaging with my content. The description of her career consequences was exactly what Brittany deserved for choosing her brand partnership over supporting me during James's funeral. And her panic about lost business opportunities provided appropriate consequences for someone who had demonstrated such shocking priorities during my time of grief. "Did you consider how your choice would affect your career reputation?" I asked, enjoying the opportunity to make Brittany confront the connection between her heartless behavior and the professional consequences she was now facing. "I thought it would be a private family matter," Brittany replied, revealing that she had expected to abandon me during James's funeral without facing any public accountability or social consequences for her cruel decision-making. But Brittany's assumption that family betrayal during tragedy would remain private while she celebrated publicly on social media revealed a fundamental disconnect between her actions and their potential consequences, suggesting that she had never considered how her choice would look to other people who understood family obligation and human decency. My parents were facing similar social consequences, as their friends and community members learned about their decision to skip their son-in-law's funeral in favor of attending their daughter's business celebration, creating lasting damage to their reputation and social standing. "People are treating us like monsters," Ruth called to complain, "and our friends are asking how we could abandon you during James's funeral. This public humiliation is affecting our relationship with everyone we know, and you need to post something that explains the situation better." The characterization of their social consequences as public humiliation rather than appropriate accountability for cruel behavior, revealed that Ruth still didn't understand that their reputation damage was the natural result of their heartless choice, not an unfair attack on their character. "What situation needs explaining?" I asked. "You chose Brittany's party over James's funeral, and people are reacting to that choice exactly as anyone with basic human decency would react." But Ruth continued to demand that I somehow repair the reputation damage that resulted from their own behavior, apparently believing that I was responsible for protecting them from the social consequences of their cruel abandonment during my husband's funeral. "We made a difficult decision about competing family obligations," Ruth insisted. "And you're making it sound like we don't care about James or your grief, when really we were trying to support Brittany during an important career moment." The continued characterization of choosing between a funeral and a party as difficult decision about competing family obligations revealed that my mother still didn't understand the moral distinction between sacred ceremonies and recreational events, or the magnitude of betrayal their absence had represented. But the most satisfying aspect of their social consequences was learning that several longtime family friends had ended their relationships with my parents after learning about their behavior, creating lasting isolation that reflected the community's understanding of their cruel priorities. "The Hendersons and the Mitchells have stopped speaking to us," Gregory reported during one of his desperate calls, and Ruth was asked to step down from her book club because the other members said they couldn't associate with someone who would skip a family funeral for a party. The social isolation that my parents were experiencing was appropriate and well-deserved, providing community-level consequences for people who had demonstrated such shocking callousness during a family tragedy. Meanwhile, I was building stronger relationships with James's family and discovering a supportive community of people who understood loss and the importance of showing up during tragedy, creating the kind of chosen family connections that my birth relatives had never provided. "We want you to know that you're not alone," Susan Price told me during one of our regular check-ins. "James's entire family considers you our daughter, and we'll be here to support you through grief and whatever comes next in your healing process." The unconditional support from James's family was both comforting and revealing about what real family relationships should look like, characterized by loyalty, consistency, and presence during difficult times, rather than conditional affection that disappeared when more attractive alternatives presented themselves. But the most meaningful support came from complete strangers who had shared their own stories of family betrayal and understood exactly what I was experiencing, creating a network of people who validated my decision to eliminate relatives who had proven themselves unreliable during crisis. "Your story helped me understand that I wasn't wrong to cut ties with family members who abandoned me during my cancer treatment," one woman messaged me. "And seeing your strength gave me permission to prioritize relationships with people who actually showed up when I needed them most." The messages from people who had experienced similar betrayals were both heartbreaking and empowering, as they revealed how common it is for family members to fail during tragedy, while also confirming that my response had been appropriate and necessary for protecting my emotional health. 6 months after James's funeral, my family finally managed to track me down through mutual acquaintances and show up at my apartment to demand reconciliation and restoration of our relationships, apparently believing that enough time had passed for me to forgive their cruel behavior and move forward as if their abandonment during my husband's funeral had never happened. "Eleanor, we need to talk about repairing our family relationships," Gregory announced when I reluctantly answered my door. "Enough time has passed for everyone to calm down, and we need to work together to rebuild the trust and connection that this situation has damaged." The presumption that I should be interested in rebuilding trust with people who had abandoned me during James's funeral was both arrogant and revealing about their continued inability to understand the magnitude of their betrayal or the permanence of damage they had caused. "There's nothing to rebuild," I replied. "You revealed your true character when you chose Brittany's party over James's funeral, and that choice showed me everything I need to know about your priorities and values." But my family continued to press for reconciliation, apparently believing that their desire to restore normal relationships should override my decision to protect myself from people who had proven themselves unreliable during my greatest crisis. "We made a mistake, but we're still family," Ruth pleaded. "And families should forgive each other and work together to heal from misunderstandings and conflicts that create division." The characterization of abandoning me during my husband's funeral as a mistake and misunderstanding revealed that my mother still didn't comprehend the conscious choice they had made or the appropriate consequences for such cruel behavior. "You're not my family," I replied firmly. "Family members show up during funerals, not parties. You chose Brittany's champagne celebration over being present while I buried my husband, and that choice ended our relationship permanently." The finality in my voice apparently convinced them that I was serious about maintaining the boundaries I had established, leading to increasingly desperate attempts to negotiate some kind of reconnection that would restore their access to my life. But I had learned that some betrayals reveal character so completely that forgiveness becomes impossible, and that people who abandon you during tragedy don't deserve access to your healing and recovery process. People who choose business celebrations over family funerals don't get to comfort you during grief, I told them as I prepared to close my door permanently on relationships that had been built on obligation rather than genuine love and support. And they don't get to celebrate with you when life gets better. The 2 years that followed James's death were filled with grief, healing, and the gradual construction of a new life built around people who had demonstrated real loyalty and support during my darkest hour, including James's family, who had embraced me completely, colleagues who had become genuine friends, and the community of people who understood loss and the importance of showing up when others are suffering. My graphic design practice flourished as I channeled my creativity into work that honored James's memory while serving clients who appreciated quality creative services, and I found deep satisfaction in building professional relationships based on mutual respect and shared values. But the most important discovery was that eliminating family members who had proven themselves unreliable during tragedy had freed emotional and mental energy that I could invest in relationships with people who understood the value of loyalty, compassion, and presence during times of crisis and celebration. The chosen family I built was everything James would have wanted for me, filled with people who valued kindness and integrity, dedicated to supporting each other through difficult times, and free from relatives who had revealed themselves to be fundamentally selfish people who prioritized personal interests over family obligation and human decency. If you're reading this and you've experienced abandonment from family members who failed to support you during tragedy while prioritizing their own interests and celebrations, please know that their behavior revealed their true character and that you deserve relationships with people who understand the value of showing up when you need them most. Some betrayals are so cruel and fundamental that they permanently destroy relationships, and there is no obligation to maintain connections with people who have demonstrated that their love is conditional and their support unreliable during times of crisis and loss. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to eliminate people who have hurt you so deeply that continued relationship would only enable their cruel behavior while preventing you from building the supportive community you deserve during healing and recovery. True family shows up during your darkest moments, and sometimes losing people who don't support you during tragedy is actually a gift that reveals who really matters and deserves a place in your rebuilt life. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share your experiences in the comments below. Have you ever had family members abandon you during tragedy while prioritizing their own celebrations and interests? How did you handle relatives who showed such shocking callousness during your time of greatest need? Your story might help someone else who's dealing with family betrayal during crisis and needs to understand that eliminating unreliable people from your life creates space for relationships built on genuine love and unwavering support. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember that you deserve family relationships based on loyalty and presence rather than conditional affection that disappears when you need it most. See you in our next story here on Her Sweet Revenge.